This election is going to have a dramatic effect on fiscal policy. Most importantly, what could happen with tax policy.
Yep.
In 2017, that's when we had this tax act. And I remember vividly, in the end of 2016, when Hillary had a 90% chance of winning that election, going into the election, right? And people said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to change my status of my corporation from a C to an S or vice versa. I'm going to do all this tax planning for something that didn't happen. And so right now, these tax laws that was signed into law into 2017 expires at the end of 2025, dependent upon who wins the election. As you know, Joe Biden has this plan that he has put forth in the Green Book, I think it's called, that taxes would go up double on capital gains just alone.
Yeah, especially for higher income individuals. Now, he keeps promising if you're married filing jointly $400,000 or less, that you won't see any increase in your taxes. Now, in a way, I'll believe it when I see it, because anytime you get a change in the tax code, there's always something that happens. And if you think about the size of the government spending, 23% of GDP, basically, the revenue, 16%, that's not sustainable. You can't consistently be having that big of a wedge between what they're spending and what they're taking in. And so how are they going to really close that gap, not just in terms of the magnitude, like where are we going to end up? Is it going to be more like Europe, where we're closer to, like 25% of GDP for revenue for the government?
But even if he's correct, Brian, there is a situation where corporate income taxes on both sides could be under pressure. And of course, the populist Republican president, right, or nominee, that could put more pressure on corporate taxation, which currently went from 35% down to 21%. That could go up, and that's going to put pressure on prices across the country.
Well, and then also as far as any of the deductions or exemptions, as far as if they make an investment, their ability to write that off. Typically when a company makes an investment in property, plant, and equipment, they can write that off, expense it basically over time. Under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, they were given some accelerated depreciation to encourage that type of investment, because investment is the seed corn for future growth. If that changes, then it's not just about the rates. It's always about the details as well. When we're talking to clients about how to do some of the tax strategy, because we do not get involved in the tax preparation, but with the strategizing, what are some things that we can do today to really kind of help with thinking about the different scenarios? You don't want to necessarily lock yourself out of a potential change in the future because of something you do today.
The last worry that we're hearing a lot about is, what is the Fed going to do? And I know people are probably rolling their eyes, but it's important because higher interest rates and even higher inflation costs are putting pressure on not only retailers, but consumers as well. So what the Fed does over the next number of months is going to be important. And by the way, what they do could not be dependent just on inflation, but a slowing economy.
It is. We just got some GDP numbers revised from the first quarter showing that the economy expanded at about a 1.3% annualized rate. Things have really slowed down from an economic perspective from growth. Now, the labor market looks good. It's gone from great to good, so I don't want to diminish that. But things rarely stop at just good when it's going in that trajectory. How much will things cool, especially as we approach the election? If the Federal Reserve is going to sit on their hands, or are they going to twiddle their thumbs, it really does remain to be seen. Now they're going to have to not just worry about inflation, but now also growth. Last year, their job was kind of easy. They could just be super hyper-focused on inflation. Now it's a little bit more, they've got to keep their eye on two balls instead.